cold to it, but he's going to have to do that and then Dissolve or Clash of Wills every mastery.
Yeah, that card's actually pretty tough for him to beat. You know, he's got, as you mentioned, Clash of Wills is a way to counter it, and then Banishing Light is a way to kill it, but it is a problem card for Jim as we are underway here in game number 1 of round 15. Tranquil Cove is where Davis will start. He's up to 21, and whoever wins this match likely to make top 8.
Yeah, see what the 2-drop is. Jim's got to be happy that it wasn't Mastery. It's just a Hangerback Walker.
Yeah, I have to assume Jim's deck is pretty good against Hangerback Walker.
Yeah, he has 3 copies of Banishing Light and 3 copies of Last Breath as some of his main deck removal spells. All of those are really good against a card like Hangerback Walker. There are few kill spells. I guess he has End Hostilities in the main as a 3 of. That one, not as good. But other than that, his effects are not destroy effects. They exile.
Here's an island for Jim. We'll see what's next. It'll be a Jace. So let's go Alan Wu's way. There's a Plains. Here's a Banishing Light to get Jace off the battlefield.
Yeah, Banishing Light, a card that very frequently is dead on the mono white side of things. Alan's got to be pretty happy that he got a target off it, and a good one at that.
Curious to see if Davis was relying on Jace to maybe fix up the hand a little bit. You see his draw for the turn wasn't Elspeth.
Yeah, it does have Last Breath, Dissolve, Ojutai's Command. That Jace is in exile and not in the graveyard certainly is a negative for Jim. Love to get that back with a command later on.
We'll Dissolve at the ready here for Davis. It's funny. When we've seen Jim kind of branch out knobs on a little bit here. Here's Knight of the White Orchid. We've seen him branch out a little bit to other things, but Jim just looks so comfortable playing blue-white control decks.
See, besides, this one's not worth a Dissolve. So he's just going to pass. Jim probably will Last Breath this Hangerback while he has the chance.
That'll be the target. Alan will gain some life from this exchange, but Hangerback Walker's off the battlefield, and now we keep moving here with Davis. Tranquil Cove, the draw.
Well, so has Dissolve in hand, so it's a great time to play a tap land. True, he cannot keep up Ojutai's Command. He'll have to wait a turn on that.
Here comes the Knight of the White Orchid.
Good news for Alan, he missed his land drop last turn, but can fix that with this Knight of the White Orchid he drew. Jim will have none of it.
Or can he?
Yeah, apparently not. That's getting dissolved very quickly.
Dave's going to scry. We'll see where that top card goes.
Remember, this blue-white control deck may remind you of some of the ones from last season. It's just surviving, surviving, surviving. Instead of having Sphinx's Revelation, it just has many Elspeths. It's the Jace plus Ojutai's Command interaction, though, that pushed it over.
Second Knight of the White Orchid. Pass the turn back. Jim without a land here. It's all he can do is pass the turn back. And he's actually short on being able to cast Dig Through Time right now as well.
Yeah, he's got 2 Ojutai's Commands. So what we might see him do is end step just gain 4, draw a card.
Yep.
Because that will now fuel him up enough for Dig Through Time. Also undoes the 4 damage that Alan dealt with the Knights.
Yeah, kind of a fog in a weird roundabout way that drew a card.
Looks like he drew a Last Breath. Still not the land he was looking for.
Does have Dig Through Time and 4 cards in the graveyard, so 4 plus 4 is 8, which is the necessary mana cost for Dig. But Davis will just pass the turn back.
Yeah, I actually would not be surprised if Jim just runs back the same Ojutai's Command play. The other option is he could Dig and Last Breath.
There's the Plains. And now will Davis dig? He will have to use all of his mana in his entire graveyard. So he'll take a look at the top 7 cards and take 2 with them. Curious to see if he's just looking for 2 lands or not. And Hostilities is in there.
And Hostilities not bad. If he's not taking 2 lands, land and Hostilities may do it. It's the other options here. He has many Dissolves, a Jace's Ingenuity.
Looks like he didn't find very much as far as lands are concerned.
Yeah. I was a little surprised to see him do the dig. I somewhat expected he'd run back the gain 4 draw card play, wanting to dig on 2 mana, not 4. This should still be fine, though. If he has a card like Hostilities to clean up with, I mean, Alan's really not presenting much of a threat.
Well, I went to the Plains now, so He has found some lands, one off the dig and then one from the draw step. So there's an island.
Has Dissolve and Last Breath up, can do both. Yeah, he's taking some hits off these knights, but he has life points to work with. Now, the option here is he could Last Breath and leave up a Dissolve, or he could take 2 extra damage to hold up Ojutai's command and try to get a 2-for-1 that way.
It looks like he's going to go with Last Breath. That'll take care of the knight. So Alan will gain some more life here, and Jim will take a little bit of damage from the knight that's still on the battlefield. But as you mentioned, Davis does have Dissolve still at the ready.
Yeah, and it may be that Alan's just not presenting enough of a threat for these decisions to matter too much on Jim's side. If it's just Knight of the White Orchids, I think Alan's stuck on cards like multiple Banishing Lights in hand.
There's the plans, and Jim, if Jim wants, he can try to drop the hammer here with Elspeth. Now, he's typically pretty patient when he plays decks like this. He's not willing to tap out. You'll oftentimes find it that Jim will play Elspeth with 9 mana with Dissolve to protect. That's kind of his signature move. So it's just going to be a Jace. Knight's going to come in. Davis will take that. They'll fall to 10. Now Alan Wu's got some things to consider. His draw has not been particularly good this game. A lot of lands over there, just a couple of creatures. He'll play a Plains and just pass the turn back.
Yeah, what I like is that Jim is, by not playing Elspeth there, he's capitalizing on the fact that Alan is only presenting 2 damage a turn. Yeah, he could play Elspeth this turn and that might win, but by playing Jason, getting extra card advantage that way, he can hold up cards like Dissolve and Ojutai's command. And as long as he's not losing, then he gets to have more value off these.
Modern Premier IQ players, your appearance for round 5 are now going up on the various forms.
Jim looks like he's going to use Ojutai's command. We'll draw a card, get some life perhaps.
Absolutely, goes up to 14.
Building a little bit of velocity here is Davis while keeping that life total high.
Ojutai's command continues to impress. It's a 4 of in these control decks.
There's a Temple, top card.
Land 7, as you mentioned, Jim likes to play his Planeswalkers on 9. Now he does have picked up a second copy of Elspeth, and that might be enough to have him press the button on the first one. But it is Jim Davis, so maybe we'll just keep them all.
We're gonna wait.
We're gonna wait.
We're gonna dig our toes in. Dig our heels in. We're not
doesn't matter
going
if we have
anywhere.
a second one. Yeah.
This is something you should be able to appreciate.
I do like
by
it.
the way.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You oftentimes the best Sphinx of Revelation is the one that's not cast. So Jim is gonna wait here for a while. Here's the Soldier of the Pantheon.
What if Mastery of the Unseen happens? We don't ever want to take Dissolve down. Maybe we play Elspeth and he Banishing Lights it and plays Mastery, and then what did we do? Now we might lose. Probably not. He still has another Banishing Light left over, but you could. It's about picturing the worst possible scenario and then figuring out how to not lose to it.
Here's Banishing Light.
He's hitting this at a pretty crucial point right before Jace could flip. If he didn't remove Jace this turn, Jace would loot and then loot again and flip. Now, if Jim manages to put any card in the graveyard, then Jace could flip anyway.
Yep. Pretty stocked hand here for Davis. Dissolve, Elspeths, Disdainful Stroke. It's a pretty nice one.
Yeah, well, there's some danger here. Say Jim had an Ojutai's command. He could just use the Ojutai's command to draw a card, then tap Jace and loot, and then the Banishing Light wouldn't exile the Jace because he would be back as a different card.
There's Dissolve.
Yeah.
Davis will scry. Top card going to go to the bottom very quickly.
And that's a win for Alan. He got the control deck to dissolve a card like Banishing Light.
Modern Premier IQ players,
I wouldn't be unhappy if I was Alan if that's the exchange. That said, my opponent's got a Jace going that's about to flip, so I'm not thrilled at that either.
Yeah, Alan's not out of the woods yet, and he's most likely still losing the game, but that part of it was good for him.
So Davis will draw. Polluted Delta, he's going to very, very quickly sacrifice.
I think there's a moment where Jim feels like he has the game in hand, so you may see him rev up the engine. He certainly needs to be aware of the clock at all points while playing this deck.
Jim Davis revving up the engine, huh?
Yeah.
That means he's going to get
Yeah.
going a little bit here.
Yeah. Well, it's the point where you feel like you can't lose anymore. You say, okay, the thing I can lose to is not my opponent, but the clock. If I later on in the game, so I need to go aggro on the clock now. I need to, let's deploy our win cons. The doomsday scenario is so unlikely here that we'll try to win.
Now this isn't quite Jace the Mind Sculptor and Elspeth Knight Errant, but it's close-ish.
It is close. Yeah.
This isn't the first time we've seen Jace and Elspeth side by side, making life tough for somebody.
No, last time they had Gideon to protect them both while they activated.
Gideon's coming soon.
Right.
But Elspeth's rotating, so they won't get to tag up again.
This card's so good. Elspeth Sun's champion. Sometimes we forget about it in this format. Spent the whole time as the best card against Obs on aggro. In black, we saw it be the win con. And it's kind of returned to that spot in this blue-white control deck. Elspeth is how Jim wins all his games.
Well, Jace is certainly going to help him in this game because he looks like he's going to flash back a dig through time. So many cards he wants to leave in the graveyard as far as Delve is concerned, but now he gets to take a look at the top 7, of course, take 2 with him, and he is certainly turning the corner here.
Yeah, he overpaid on that by quite a bit. There we go. He paid the double blue twice.
Clash of Wills in there, as is Ochitai's Command. Banishing Light. A lot of goodies.
Two more. The board is great for him, so 2 more counter spells is what he's looking for.
Yeah.
He said, right. And no, this is great by Jim. So one thing you can do, if you want to speed up the clock, is your opponent obviously doesn't have to concede to this, but what you can do is show them, be like, I have 3 counter spells, which like, and this was great by Jim. He got a lot of clock time by showing Alan that.
Yeah, that game maybe takes another 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes if they just play it out by drawing and going and casting their spells. And, Jim there is just saying, look, the chances of you winning this game are very low. We can move on to the next one, which could take a little while, both for your deck and mine. So shortcutting a little bit there, I think a good idea. Jim Davis does win game number 1 here over Alan Wu. Blue-white control up a game over mono-white devotion. Heck, both these players have a draw. Right. So they don't want to get another draw when they're playing for top 8 here. So we'll take a look at the sideboards. You've got Mono White Devotion in front of you. I know that Alan's got 4 main deck copies of Master of the Unseen, but what's he got in the sideboard to help him?
Okay, so looking at the sideboard, we're going to go through it. He has Surge of Righteousness, Celestial Flare. Those aren't to go. He does have 2 Elspeth Sun's Champion. That one's pretty good here. He has some Glare of Heresies, and Jim does play Banishing Lights and Elspeth. I imagine he'll bring those in as well. Other cards, Spear Peliod, Valor Stance, Banishing Light, and Tragic Arrogance. Don't think he'll be going toward any of those. So mainly Elspeths and Glares is what I would expect from Alan Wu.
Other side of things here for Jim, he's got 3 copies of Arashan Cleric, a Soulfire Grandmaster, 2 Negates, a Disdainful Stroke, a Pearl Link Ancient. I haven't seen that one for a while. 2 Master of the Unseens of his own, Heroic Existence, which you have to imagine will come in for Mastery, Valorous Stance, 2 Glare of Heresies, another answer to Mastery of the Unseen, and against the Mono White Devotion deck, and then a Last Breath. So a lot of good options here for Jim, I think.
Yeah, so looking at Glares, of course, great against the Mono White deck. Negate seems to be pretty good here. This does look like it just gets better for Jim after board.
Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 2. Alan Wu will be on the play. He's definitely going to need a better draw than the last one. I think a card like Master of the Unseen could really change things around for him. But as these players shuffle up and get ready for the second game, we see our Season 2 Invitational champion here, Ali Antrazi, with his son Aiden in his arms as an angel token here for Star City Games. Now, not a lot of time left to get this one because Alex Bostecki's token is coming out October 2nd. But all Open Series players, all Premier IQ players, and all orders from Star City Games, $5 or more will get you the Ali Antrazi angel token. He won $10,000 at the Origins Game Fair at our Season 2 Invitational. He also punched an invite to our Players Championship, and we are looking forward to seeing him at the end of the year at the Star City Games Center. He'll be brewing. We know that because, well, he's a brewer.
This is probably not a win-win for Alan anymore.
So we get ready here for game number 2 between Alan Wu and Jim Davis. And Wu will be on the play with a deck that, even though a lot of these pieces are going to rotate out and the way this deck is built is going to change, Mono White Devotion picking up some popularity at the end of the standard format.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it as the only non-Obzon deck in the top 4 of Worlds. That was piloted by Sam Black. Doing very well there. Sam was playing it yesterday as well. Craig Wesco top 4ing a WMCQ with the deck. It certainly has been good. It's interesting talking to players about it. Not entirely sure where its good and bad matchups have been. It's got a good proactive game plan and has been decent against some variations of Obzon. Certainly performed well against Jeskai.
Yeah, the Obzon matchup is a little touchy, but what deck looks like it has a good matchup against Abzan is blue-white control here at the end of the format. And that's what Jim's piloting right now. And as we've seen over the past year or so, Jim loves to play blue-white control. It's what helped him towards invitational top 8s. It's what helped him get to the Players' Championship. 2 invitational top 8s here for Jim at 31 years of age. 8 Open Series top 8s with a win in Indianapolis earlier this year. He's also got a Grand Prix top 8 in Dallas with Goblins back in 07. Teaches writing at a private school, loves to DJ. His DJ name is DJ JD for Jim Davis. Pretty simple stuff there. And then he loves hockey. You can actually see the Rangers shirt that he is wearing. He's really always seen in hockey gear. Sometimes he'll throw on the Jets jersey because he's a New York Jets fan.
Yeah.
But overall, Jim Davis continuing on his winning ways here on the Open Series. So Alan Wu will be on the play here in just a moment with his mono white devotion deck. And we'll see if he can tie things up here against Davis, who I would say rather comfortably won that first game. Nothing too difficult. He had a little bit of hiccup as far as mana is concerned, but he's able to work his way out of that with dig through time, and the rest of it was pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, and what was that? The threats, Alan never had any late game threats that seemed to matter. You know, they looked at the cards he was trying to win with. It was Knight of the White Orchids. Those aren't, you know, we were expecting things like Archangel of Tides, Wingmate Rocks, Bramazes, perhaps Masteries. None of those came to play, and Knight of the White Orchids are not difficult for Jim to deal with.
Soldier of the Pantheon is where Alan will start. For Jim, it's a Temple of Enlightenment. He'll scry. We'll see if the top card stays on top or goes to the bottom. Jim's thinking about putting it back on top. And he will. So over to Alan we go. There's a Plains. Here comes the Soldier. And now a Hangerback Walker. So a much better start for Alan this go-around. Sure, Hangerback Walker doesn't provide devotion, but he just wants to get things on the battlefield. There's a Polluted Delta. No Swamps we found in Jim's deck. Simply a fetch land to be able to add to the graveyard for dig through time.
So Alan has a good start here. This is more threats than he had previously. Now, Jim still has cards like Last Breath. What will be interesting is to see whether or not Alan can sneak in cards like Mastery of the Unseen once again. If he just plays cards like Hangerbacks and Soldiers, once again, I think Jim will be able to control it.
Hangerback Walker not coming to the red zone, and wow, Alan's going to miss a land drop here, so the plan is to build up Hangerback Walker, but as we've seen with Jim's deck list, and we actually saw in the previous game, a Hangerback Walker is not much of a concern for him. He's got Last Breath, he's got Banishing Light. It's really not that tough to deal with.
No, and I think it's this, so to play a devotion strategy, the deck usually fits into low drop cards that are your enablers, that are some sort of creatures, and then you have your payoff spells. The low drop cards, like so your Soldiers, your Knight of the White Orchids, your Kythian, your Hangerback Walker, they really aren't what matter in this matchup. Jim will be able to deal with that. What he has to do is dodge the payoff cards. You know, the Bramazes, the Masteries, and the Archangels. But if Alan only presents small creatures, you're right, Hangerback isn't going to pose too much of a threat.
There's an attack for 2. Knight of the White Orchid was looking to get a Plains. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Fortunately, Alan did draw the land. He was looking to get double land that turn.
Dissolve took care of the Knight. Flooded Strand the draw here for Davis. Also has a copy of Radiant Fountain and Hostilities in hand. There is Flooded Strand. Now Davis will just pass the turn back over to Wu.
Draw may have been another Knight of the White Orchid, so he could land up here. He actually has Jim down to 11, so has made inroads on the life total.
Looks like he might have an Oach-Tides Command.
It'd be pretty big if he did.
That's a pretty quick sacrifice of that Flooded Strand. So I think that's what's on the way.
Either Oach-Tides Command or just has a dig through time. I'm guessing you're right, though. It looks like a command.
I counter that in either 4 life or a card.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he values this. He's at 10 life points, so that's moderately low. But right now, it looks like Jim still wants a card. A card is worth more than 4 life to him.
A couple of dissolves drawn over the past couple of turns here from Jim. Tranquil Cove in hand as far as the land is concerned. So that'll be land number 5. He'll push himself up to 11, and then we head back Alan Wu's way.
So this is where I really like just what blue-white control gets to do with its mana. So with multiple dissolves in hand, you feel like the control player is doing great. And it's a position where he normally would win from. The one issue is that there's a Soldier of the Pantheon in play beating down on him. So you'd say, okay, well, how can Jim answer that while leaving up Dissolve? And what I like is that he doesn't have to, because he can play Tranquil Cove, he can play Radiant Fountain, and he actually just use his lands to parry the hits from Soldier of the Pantheon while he counters Alan's business spells. And we see that there. Counters Archangel, just plays another Cove, passes the turn, and look, he's at 10 again.
Yeah, he's going to fall down to 8 from this attack, but he's got cards that can just undo these hits. Ochitai's Command, Radiant Fountain, stuff like that. The thing that you just demonstrated, being able to counter spells and gain life. So Ochitai's Command is going to counter that Archangel dies and draw a card, get Jim deeper in his deck, maybe closer towards an Elspeth here.
Yeah, he's so confident right now about not getting beaten down that what he cares about is finding the finisher. So Ochitai's Command, it wasn't even a counter gain for, it was a counter draw. He is heavy on lands, and that's a concern. You see here, Radiant Fountain, 2 basics, another counter spell, and a Last Breath. That's what he's sitting on. But if he draws a Dig, he draws an Elspeth, that'll do it.
Jim will fall back down to 8 here. Alan will just pass the turn back. And Elspeth has been drawn.
There we go. We'll see if he waits until 9 mana to do it. He has 8 right now. With the 9th in hand, I have to imagine he will.
Yeah, the Elspeth plus Dissolve play that Jim loves.
It's pretty hard to beat if you're on the white side of things.
He's been doing for almost 2 years. Yeah. I don't think he's going to pass it up. Yep, there's step 1.
Too good. Leaving up 3 duels. Elspeth trying to be lights out here. This is how the deck wins. Survive, Elspeth.
That's the last week you get to cast the card.
Might as well make it something you cast every game.
Yeah. There's Banishing Light. Watch him very quickly letting it go.
And that's such an investment. He has a Dissolve, but no need.
Curious to see how he wants to use the Dissolve that he has in his hand right now. Archangel Ties being placed on the stack. Jim can counter this, or he can just cast the End Hostilities that he has.
Right, so he has Jace, End Hostilities, Dissolve. Now, what he would ideally, I guess, like to do is play all 3 next turn. He is 1 mana short of that.
Yep.
So depending on what he draws, he probably either plays End Hostilities Go or plays all 3, depending on if he draws a land.
Well, he drew the land, sort of.
Yeah. Coming into play tapped means if he wants to play Jace, he'll have to take down Dissolve. That, because of the presence of cards like Master of the Unseen, that is most likely too greedy, and I imagine he'll just delay Jace a turn.
Well, here's your sweeper. Time to clear it all away. It's End Hostilities now. It could end up being Planner Outburst after rotation.
Absolutely. We have new sweepers coming to replace the old one. And Hostilities will still be around.
There's a Wingmate Rock off the top of the deck. Wonder if that's worth dissolving.
Jim's at 7 and doesn't have another way to answer it. This is not a card he would ideally like to spend the Dissolve on. That said, his life total may dictate that he has to.
I think Alan only has 1 card left in hand. That's a Glare of Heresy.
Right, so the worry from Jim obviously would be if he dissolves here, then Alan taps 2, says Mastery, go. Jim's in a horrible spot if that happens. And you can tell right now, this is what he's thinking. He wants to play around everything. This is a medium payoff card. He can beat this one with a lot of top decks. He doesn't have many top decks that can beat Mastery. And yeah, he's gonna let it resolve and hope to beat it with some draws.
Here's Jace. A little risky.
That is, yeah, I mean, he's showing a lot of respect to Mastery of the Unseen by not countering there.
All right, Alan. You got that Wingmate Rock in. Can you take advantage of it? And I come across for 3. Now, the nice thing is that Jace can flip and then really slow it down.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't find a kill spell for Wingmate Rock, Jace can flip and flashback End Hostilities.
Yeah.
And so he does have it covered. He's at 4 life. It's not like he has to fear burn out of the mono white deck.
Clash of Wills was the draw. Perhaps Jim discards that to this Jace activation. We'll see. Found another Clash of Wills.
Now he probably discards one of them.
Yeah. Doesn't seem great.
This late in the game, a counterspell like Clash of Wills loses a lot of its value. So it requires Jim to tap all his mana to counter one thing.
Jace will start on 5. Looks like he's got some interest in flashing back, though.
Yeah, he's set aside 5 lands. It may just be that End Hostilities again.
All right.
And I like this.
Oh, there goes Wingmate Rock.
Going back that turn where he let Wingmate Rock resolve, we talked about how it was very risky. But look how Alan has drawn Mastery of the Unseen this turn, and thanks to the patience on Jim's side, he will have the Dissolve when Alan goes for it.
There's a land. Here's a mastery.
The most important card from Alan's deck.
Now, I would be shocked if this resolves. Yeah, Jim is going to dissolve.
Absolutely cannot let that happen. I think he wanted to see if he could Clash of Wills. He cannot, so he has to spend the dissolve.
Time for Davis to untap and take a draw. He scryed to the bottom. Radiant Fountain was the draw.
Yeah, and with the amount of mana he has, the Clash of Wills in his hand actually covers a second mastery.
Yeah. Now, here comes Jace.
And the old Jace and Jace combo.
Radiant Fountain will bring Davis up to 6. And he'll say go. Blue-white control player looking to turn the corner here. There's a Wingmate Rock. Well, and Clash of Wills that if you'd like. He does kind of have an answer on the battlefield here with Jace plussing or flashing something back. This is very familiar from what we saw a couple turns ago.
Jace can plus. I don't believe he has a kill spell, another End Hostilities in his graveyard, so Jace doesn't have it covered. Say he had another End Hostilities, it could be pretty easy here. You could give the card flashback. You could flip a Jace. You could sweep it, still have a Planeswalker. It's closer because he doesn't have a way to get around it. He only -2 at each turn. But that may just be good enough for Jim.
Well, let's see what his plan is. Looks like he wants to flash something back.
Yeah, well, this gives him freedom to use his other Jace to loot.
And loot he will. Discard a land, draw, dig through time.
That is the perfect draw.
I've seen worse draws.
So neat play here. So the first Jace gave Last Breath flashback, and the second Jace -2'd the Wingmate Rock, and then he Last Breathed the Wingmate Rock because it was a 1/4.
Pretty nice.
Clever line.
And now dig through time.
And this may be the one that seals up the game. Jim is hoping. Certainly if it finds something like Dissolve Elspeth, I don't see Alan winning anymore. Remember, Jim gets a second dig through time next turn with that Jace on Telepath Unbound.
Top 7, taking 2 of them. Radiant Fountain in there. Last Breath, Revoke Existence. Revoke Existence is actually a 2-mana Elspeth.
There is an Elspeth under a Banishing Light. Yeah, Jim pounces on that one. See him speeding up. I think he knows he has it.
Well, when Jim gets going, speeds up the body language a little bit.
Yep.
It's kind of him pouncing on things. So he's going to Revoke Existence at Banishing Light. Elspeth will come back. He'll start on 4, move up to 5, 3 soldier tokens in. There's a Plains. Back to Alan. Alan with the Plains of his own. He's got a Glare of Heresy to go after Elspeth. See if Jim wants to try to defend. Wu's last card in hand is a copy of Nykthos. And Jim will just let Elspeth go again. Now, with a dig through time, yeah.
Yeah, it's why he plays more than one of them.
Yeah. Pretty good Magic card. Top 7, take 2. Jace's Ingenuity, Dissolve.
Elspeth. Yeah,
Elspeth.
This is great. It's once the ball gets rolling, it is hard to stop it.
Yeah.
And
They're all winners right now.
These Elspeths are rolling.
Dig is done. Oh, I guess not.
No, we're gonna keep on digging.
I guess I was wrong.
Just how many dissolves can we get in our hand for the remainder of the game? But start looking at that sort of question.
This doesn't feel as bad as a large revelation because that really felt hopeless, but this feels pretty hopeless.
In a way, it's worse because at least when your opponent casts Revelation for 8, you could just concede. But at this point, you're like, you're saying like, well, maybe, he only took 2 cards. Like, maybe I can still beat them. I probably have to keep playing. And then you get to lose 20 minutes later when, like, you're playing this 2 to 5% out as opposed to 0. So you have to, the fighter in you says, oh, I have to keep going. And you just have to sit here and watch him do this.
Yeah, maybe his dig was 7 lands.
You don't know. It could. Maybe if the Elspeths are on the bottom, I have a chance. Just like, you're right, you do. But, oh boy.
But that's unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah, dig. Seeing 2 digs in 1 turn, boy, that doesn't feel good.
He did look at the top 14 and took 4.
Jace is going to go up. Or is it going to go down?
I was saying, how about another dig?
Oh, okay.
I mean, at a certain point, he's going to start putting cards that he's already seen. gonna start drawing them again. They're gonna start looping through, and then you just won't have anything good left to find.
That's a sad story right there.
And you're like, dang, I already found all my dissolves.
Yeah. I wish I had more dissolves and good cards to find, but they're all in my hand. It's really unfortunate that I can't draw them anymore.
Right, so it's like, see, there's another dig through time in there, and Jim doesn't even take it, because what would it find? It would find a bunch of things he already didn't want.
And he's found dissolve and negate now. And
yeah.
Sure, Alan's got a lot of life to work down, but that's perfectly fine. Now here's an Elspeth.
Jim having 2 dissolves up, or just a dissolve negate, but he has more dissolves in his hand. Yeah.
Alan with a Nykthos in hand and now a mystery card. Oh boy. Okay.
All right, it's Soldier up to the job.
It's actually hard not to laugh at how bad Soldier is right now, and even Alan is laughing. That's how bad his draw step was.
Jace, now it's a 0-1. Here come the soldiers.
Elspeth is going to take up to 6. 3 soldiers coming in. Pass the turn back. Wu will draw. He picked up a copy of Elspeth. Jim could show him the counter spells in hand again if he'd like to. Because Alan is in a world of trouble, and you see they're having a little bit of conversation. He knows it. Jim knows he's got this game sewn up. Doesn't have to cast another spell the entire game. Been a dominant display from Blue White Control, not only in this match, we watched Michael Burnett earlier, and really all weekend long. This deck has been performing very well.
Yeah, we saw that. We caught the tail end of Jim Davis losing a game to Mono Red, but when we've seen Burnett and Davis play this one out, they have been nothing short of dominant.
Here's Negate to take care of that Elspeth.
You know, there never felt like a time in this game that this game or last, you never felt like Jim might lose.
Yeah. Jace will take up. Soldier is now a 0-1. Red zone with all these other soldiers.
Other 9.
Yeah, Elspeth's going to move up. 3 more soldiers. We're a turn away from an emblem. Jim has 800 counter spells in his hand. We've actually run out of soldier tokens.
So here we go.
Jim will show all the counter spells, and that's going to do it. So Jim Davis will win this match over Alan Wu, 2-0. Very dominant win here for number 12 on our Season 4 leaderboard. Looking for another Open Series top 8. If breakers go his way, he will slide into 8th exactly. It's either going to be 8th or 9th here for Jim this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one. Great performance by Jim. Blue White Control. Wish I knew about it earlier. This just looks like a blast.
And we know that Michael Burnett, who is behind Jim, you guys can't really see him back there, but he's also playing for top 8 here, so we could have 2 Blue White Control decks make the top 8. We could potentially have a mirror. Who knows how things are going to shake out here in Milwaukee. But either way, a very, very dominant win there for a player who's headed to the Players' Championship again at the end of the year. Made the trip out here from Long Island. And, you know, it's funny because Jim's already qualified for the Players' Championship, but one thing we know about Jim is he likes to travel, he likes to game. And so him and his girlfriend have been flying across the country, enjoying tournaments on the Open Series all year long, and it's always a joy to get to watch him play. And that match there was, boy, was that lopsided.
Yeah.